Hello, everybody, and well, I will try to keep it short and entertained. It has been already a long session. So I'm going to cover a very specific topic today. I'm going to talk about how at DDN we are helping customers that they need actually to move data from the cloud back to on-prem. So Yes, so we have, of course, customers that in the past years they have moved their IT infrastructure into the cloud, and they have, of course, they are generating data, more data every day, and their workflows are getting more complex. And well, the cloud journey, of course, is not always easy, and they find actually not does not go well for everybody. So there are some myths that about cloud that we know when we move to the cloud, we search like to save money, but it depends. No, it's actually not saving money, not for every case. Maybe not everybody really needs to move to the cloud, so that's really another one of the myths that we have about cloud. For sure, that you move to the cloud does not mean you don't need any more IT organization, but who is going to manage all your infrastructure, to plan, know your application, how they run properly, they are optimized, we have issues, all those kind of things. And of course, it might not be a good fit for every workload. No, you know probably some of that. So this is something that we are seeing with some customers that they really need to do at that data repatriation. So the reasons, and I surely mentioned, is first of all, usually is cost reduction, because sometimes some customers move to the cloud, their workload get more complex, the data they generate, we have no hearing in the previous presentations, is immense, and well, the model on the cloud might actually grow very fast and be very expensive very early. There are other reasons to move your data back from the cloud, like could be no security or not to meet new regulations. Of course, data gravity. So today, one of the questions again is, should we move data to compute or compute to the data where we generate data? Should we keep it there, process it where we move it? So, and we are talking about use cases where they really generate a lot of data. There are other cases. Some organizations, they adopt cloud early, but maybe the model they implemented was not optimal, and they really need to think on a different way to deploy it. So on some point, they might need to change the cloud vendor. They might need to change from the cloud to on-prem back. And well, unfortunately, there is as well cases where it might be even driven by a provider failure. No, we have reason about disasters, full data centers going down, etc. So for all, and of course, when we talk about data repatriation, usually is moving data back from the cloud to on-prem, but could be covering other cases. Maybe we need to move data to a different cloud provider. Maybe we want to implement a hybrid model, but then we need to move our data from that is sitting in the cloud. And it's really, we are talking about very large volumes of data, So we are dealing with petabytes of data. And for that, actually, so at DDN, we have a product, DDN Data Flow. That's the product that is for data management at scale. So DDN Data Flow is a product that helps to implement multiple use cases, like protect data, do data synchronization, and helps, especially in this case, to ease that process when we need to move these very large data volumes from the cloud. It's actually integrated with the cloud. It's really a cloud enabler. It supports all the major cloud vendors. It's have native support for Azure, AWS, GCP, but not only. It supports other clouds as well. And so DDN data flow so helps us not to implement those workflows, and between others, especially will help us to repatriate data when we really need move very large data from the cloud back. Other use cases that will help could be like migrate data between clouds, secure, when we are talking about hybrid environments, how we synchronize data and we enable those workflows safely. And of course, could be safe data, backup data from the cloud or to the cloud, depends on the model we are looking into. If we focus not to that specific case, now we need to move data back from the cloud. What are the main challenges when we really need to deal with a project to move petabyte of data from the cloud to on-prem? You need a tool that helps you to follow the process in an easy way first. That you need to be able to track and monitor the process. That you, of course, are moving your data safely, that you keep your data, and it's critical between others, like you are doing end-to-end data protection to make sure the data is sitting in the cloud, you are moving not to on-prem and it's nothing get corrupted or lost on the way. Of course, we are moving petabytes. It's going to take time. During that time, organizations, they cannot afford to stop production. So they really need to continue to plan not to minimize downtime in case they are really moving fully production from cloud to on-prem. So one of the key enablers there might be that you are doing the migration, you are synchronizing your data, you are still on production, but have a tool that really is able to keep a track of the changes. So when we are doing those in a migration process, a new iteration, we know which new data has been modified on your system, and we just synchronize the new changes. And of course, here we have to plan with a tool that is able to cope with issues during the migration. It might happen that we have network outage, we have problems on components. If you are moving petabytes of data and your migration just something goes wrong in the middle, you don't want to start over all over again, because that might just waste weeks of work. You really need to be able to track, okay, here is where we fail, and now we can just continue the work from there. So all of that, so DDN data flow really provides the tool for the customer to do the migration easy, secure, and efficient. So I put here an example. It's based on a use case that we have had recently. That was actually the user is a pharmaceutical. They were doing the genome sequencing on the cloud, but at some point they realized that not only cost, actually in that case was the processing they were doing in the cloud was not as fast as they were expecting. So they decided to move the full workload to on-prem. But the time that they were to do that, they had already like around minimum 8 petabytes of data in the cloud that they needed to move to. So it's a lot of data. And so, well, this customer had data on the cloud. Most of the data was on object storage. Of course, when you have an organization, you might have a mix of sources. Some data was sitting on some file systems in the cloud as well, and we needed to put back on premise. On a parallel file system, most of the data, but as well they have some NAVs system, maybe for sharing with other institutions, etc. So with the solution, that enables to move the data. What we put some multiple servers and it's a solution that we can scale very easily. So we have a component is called a data mover or agent. It's the one reading from the cloud and writing to on-premise. In this case, to do that fast and secure, we had a direct link. One of the benefits here is this solution have multiple interfaces, And the web interface is very simple. So not only the administrator was able to configure the migration in the way they wanted to orchestrate and to trigger it, as well it's even possible to handle to your users access to the interface and give them permissions. So maybe certain data they can decide when they want to move. If they are running today on the cloud and they know they want to run tomorrow on premise, then they can schedule, okay, I need that data set to be moved here now, because then I will start moving there. So it's not all up to the administrator, give even the possibility, no, for the user to decide which data sets to start migrating.
Just a question, if I have a huge amount of data in the cloud, can I make it move across quicker? How would I make it go even faster from A to B?
Well, mostly with the cloud, the main bottleneck you might have is the link to the cloud itself. So of course you need to be the best the pipe you have to the cloud, the better. Then of course know how much bandwidth we can get from the storage you have. Of course depends on which style of storage. There is a limit of bandwidth we can read per on each cloud provider. But usually here, for example, this is a solution that we can scale. So if we have enough network pipe, we can add more of those agents. And what we have is a catalog server, is the one orchestrating. Okay, is orchestrating the load. So usually we can scale components. Depends as well on the case. For example, with data flow, we might need to put to do more efficient the transfer, to place data movers both in the cloud, so they read straight from the cloud itself, and they use their own protocol to communicate to data movers on premise. But usually we can really scale here. There is not limitation. Usually it's more network, and we have to really study that, to use all the bandwidth. So yes, that's how we can use data flow to enable that, and that is something that we have done with this customer, but we are getting similar requests from other organizations. Autonomous driving was one of other cases. We are now sadly they are looking into that. They are running in the cloud. Their prediction for the next years is they are going to explode. The cost that they will save moving on-prem is what makes them to look for how to do this migration and to move the workflow to on-prem. So it seems like it's more of a case. Then I want to quickly mention, of course, DDN data flow cover that migration. It's a very useful tool for that, but it's a much powerful tool that helps to implement other use cases, like do archive, backup, data synchronization, and of course migration. It supports all different type of storage. That's one of the key, the flexibility that offers. We can move data from the cloud, we can move data to the cloud. Well, I will skip this, but one key thing is today, maybe we are not just moving from the cloud to on-prem. Really what we need is to fix and to implement some hybrid workflows, because we have some, for sure, part of our applications that they run faster and in an optimal way on-prem, but we have as well some other applications on the cloud, and we might be doing training on-premise, and then we do some inference on the cloud. And to implement that hybrid workflows, of course, we need the orchestration platform on top, that to help where I'm going to run, what I'm going to run where. But if we are really dealing with big data volumes, we need to synchronize data efficiently and to do it fast. So DDN data flow enables to do that and offers multiple interfaces. It's as well a REST API that can be integrated into the application or the scheduler, so to really be to enable that type of architecture. And just last bit, well, all this data management that today we can drive, via the REST API, the web interface, scripts, etc., is being enhanced in a new version coming this year with analytics, meaning we will be able to scan your volumes, your file system, your data on the cloud, have knowledge about the data distribution, know how many directories you have, how many files, how big they are, how old, when they were accessed, when they were modified, and use that information to trigger data movement, to trigger the backup or archive, and really be able to do that, the security of the data synchronization based on complex rules that are around that. So that really will fill that gap. And of course, well, if you want to know more, we can come to our booth and we will see more in details. But yeah, that's what I wanted to cover today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Maria.